Another question?
I guess this question is largely for Mr. Schuler, although I'd like to hear Mr. Smith's thought on it too. I think that sooner or later, like it or not, we're going to have light rail in this area. Otherwise, from I-71 to 75, north of 275, I think is fast approaching that of being nothing more than a parking lot. My question is, and last night Mr. Brinkman mentioned the Eastern Corridor project. So light rail might be, as it's set up, part of the Eastern Corridor project or undertaking on its own. What I do not understand is why something like light rail, and I've seen several of their public presentations, very well done, has to jump through innumerable hoops. When I see the effort that these people put into preparing this information, and I think, why is it that they have to jump through so many hoops? If somebody decides we need to widen I-75 or 71, bang, it's done. Here's the money, go at it. The problem, I think, is in light rail, you have the automobile industry, gasoline, tires, road builders, all probably have zero interest in light rail.
And your question is?
Yeah, why is it that to get something like light rail, you have to jump through so many hoops as opposed to simply getting more money for remodeling the two interstates?
Thank you. I think 2 minutes for each. Mr. Schuler?
Okay. Just for terminology, light rail is very specific. It's trains that run with outside power. When Representative Brinkman mentioned the Eastern Corridor, I serve on the Hamilton County Transportation Improvement District, which is working with Claremont County on that. And they're going to the idea is to have something similar, but it would be commuter rail, which has its own power. But I mean, that's academic. But sometimes when people say light rail, they mean any kind of rail. I was on in 1986 when I was a township trustee. I was on a committee with OKI where we studied light rail with the city of Cincinnati, and came to the conclusion we needed light rail to go to Clifton. We needed to go out the west along basically I-74 and up I-71, and then at the end there was no money available to do that. The city didn't seem interested in putting any money into it, and the federal money then dried up. And then 20 years later, they did the same study. They could have just pulled that one off the shelf, I think, because then upgraded it a little bit. But there just does not seem to be the enthusiasm. If you remember that when that was proposed the last time, it was put on the ballot and it was just overwhelmingly defeated. And there has to be a local match. And without the people voting for some sort of a funding for it, we can't get that local match. Back in '86, it was 10% local match. Now it's 50% local match. The federal government's not coming up like they were on that. I'd love to see a train go to Columbus. You know, I could read and work on the way up and the way back instead of driving. It'd be great. So, but it just doesn't seem like there's the will to do that.
Could I follow up with a...
Well, let's let Mr. Smith.
Okay. I think in general, we are going to have to get to light rail. It's just a matter of time. I mean, how much worse can the traffic on I-71 and I-75 get? I mean, eventually the people will realize it. Unfortunately, it may be way too late. I think we need to look at the amount of money that we're spending on our highways and start to hold a little bit of that back every year in order to start paying for this light rail. Essentially, a light rail system will never work unless people want to use it. Okay, we just need to basically apply business principles. We need to build something that people are going to like, just like Procter & Gamble, and I know that we can do this. I mean, if you just think about it, I was just doing some quick calculations here. 100,000 commuters traveling 25 miles a day. Sounds like a math class, doesn't it? 25 miles a day, essentially using a couple bucks worth of gas at around $2.50 a gallon. We're talking about those 100,000 commuters, and there are a heck of a lot more of them here. That's $125 million worth of gas that could be saved by those folks. Wouldn't they want to, and that doesn't even include the parking. We just need to develop a much longer view of our growth. I mean, if you think about it, think about the way that we build our highways today. I actually just yesterday talked with a woman who does highway engineering, and I said, you know, is there any better way that we could build our highways? She said, yeah, you mean like the way they do in Europe? Which is build the superstructure so that it's below the frost line so we don't have frost heave. This is just, you know, it costs more to do initially, but in the long run, it saves enormous amounts of money. If we had done that 30 years ago, we'd have money for light rail galore.